Hello, beautiful people. I'm very excited to be filming just a really fun, classic sit down book video for you today. So, I'm going to be talking about all the books that I've read this year, and I've read some really good ones. And I was actually telling my friend that I'm going to be filming this video, and he was like, "What's your favorite of the year?" And I was like, "Okay, don't ask me that as if it's a simple question," because I honestly don't know. Because, yeah, I've really read some good ones. So I'm really excited to talk to you about them today. Obviously, I'll give you all my thoughts and yeah. And I also want to thank Book of the Month for sponsoring today's video. Super thankful to them. I love working with Book of the Month because they are such an amazing service, and I'm really excited to talk about this month's selections. So basically, if you don't know, Book of the Month is a super popular and fast-growing online book service for readers. So the team at Book of the Month vet hundreds of books each month and then gives readers their choice from a curated selection of new and early release book titles. So basically, this means that you can spend less time researching and more time actually reading. And their mission is to promote new and emerging authors. I really enjoy their selections every month and how you can be introduced to books that you hadn't heard of, introduced to new authors you hadn't heard of. They always have a really nice, diverse selection of titles to choose from. Book of the Month is also completely risk-free, so you can skip any time of any month and you won't be charged. And they have the best price for new release hardcover fiction. So you can actually get your first book for just $5. Can you believe it? With the code FLOWERS. And super exciting news because Book of the Month has now launched audiobooks in the US. So this new feature means that Book of the Month members can use any of their Book of the Month credits for a hardcover or an audiobook each month. You know I love my audiobooks, so this is so exciting that they introduced this to their service. And now let me talk about the May selections. So these are all of their May books. It was really hard to decide which book I wanted to go with, but it would definitely be between these two. So first I have Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez, which is a romance. And this romance is filled with terrible first impressions, hilarious second chances, and the joy in finding a perfect match. I've heard really good things about this author's romance novels, so I'm really excited to give this a try. And I have a newfound appreciation and love for a second chance romance story, which you will hear more about in one of the books that I'm going to talk about later on. So really excited for this, and also this one. This is Did You Hear About Kitty Carr? Firstly, the cover is actually insane. Like, I love it. It's just so gorgeous, sleek, amazing. And this is by Crystal Smith Paul, and this is really giving me the Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo vibes because this is historical fiction and it's about the glamour of old Hollywood, and it's actually a multi-generational saga. And Kitty Carr is a celebrity, and basically this novel delves into the secrets behind Kitty Carr's ascent to fame and everything. So really excited about this. So if you want to get one of these books for just $5, like I said, new members can get their first book from Book of the Month for just $5 using my code FLOWERS. Book of the Month currently shipped to US and Canada, so if you're able to get one of their amazing books, I highly recommend doing so, and I will of course have their link in the top of my description. And thank you so much to Book of the Month for sponsoring this video. So let's get into all the books I've read. I've read 19 books this year, but I'm not going to talk about all of them. I'm talking about majority of the ones I've read, but not all of them because some of them are for like an upcoming video. The first book that I read was The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse by Charlie Mackey or Maxey. Actually, one of my complaints about this is the font because the font isn't that easy to read. It might be Macquarie. Yeah, this font is used throughout and it's definitely not my favorite. It's, in my opinion, not that pleasing to the eye, but also just really hard to read at times. Anyway, this is a really cute story about the boy, the mole, and the fox. And it's basically about their journey together and the boy's search for a home. And obviously he finds a home with the fox and the horse. And it's so cute. It's just such a heartwarming story. And obviously the art is incredible. Like, some of the illustrations, I was just in awe. But yeah, so super quick to read, and it's actually an animated film now, like a short film, like I think 30 minutes. So I still need to watch that because I know I'm going to love it. And I just love stories about community and connection and finding your home with the people that you feel safe with. Or animals in this case, obviously. So I just love this and I gave it 4 stars. It was incredible and I highly recommend it. Then I read Weird to Exist, Simple Comics About Complex Emotions by Alison Zai. And this was a gift from my beautiful friend Michelle. And I'm so happy that they gave this to me because I loved this. This was so fun. Really hilarious. It's exactly what the title says. And I just found the humor so funny because obviously humor is quite subjective and different for every person. But thankfully, I really connected to this specific humor. And I was just cracking up. And I also felt really confident because I do use humor a lot to cope with complex emotions. So it was really comforting and I felt really seen. in a lot of these comics and related to a lot of them. And I really enjoyed the format because basically there are different sections. So there's like to create, to love, to exist. My favorite was definitely to exist. And if you've seen my readathon vlog with Caitlin that I filmed at the beginning of the year, I read this during that readathon and I was cracking up. And Caitlin was like, "You're having the time of your life." And I was like, "I honestly am." Like, it was so fun. And Caitlin actually read it as well and she really enjoyed it. So yeah, just really fun and comforting. And I'm sure I'll like revisit it when I just want a little laugh and if I'm like spiraling. So yeah, these are some of my favorite comics from the book. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. So I gave this 4 stars. But the to exist section, 5 stars. Okay, then I read Orochi by Kazuo Umezu. Kazuo Umezu is an iconic horror manga creator. And it's actually funny because in the vlog where I read this, I talked about how some people said that like this is a Junji Ito ripoff, but Kazuo Umezu actually came before Junji Ito, and Junji Ito has said how he was very inspired by Kazuo Umezu, so that was quite funny, but amazing, and I can definitely see how Junji Ito was heavily inspired by him. And I just love horror manga, so I really enjoyed this. I think this had 2 interconnected stories in it, and the main story is about a mysterious young woman who slithers her way into the lives of unsuspecting people, like the legendary multi-tailed serpent, for which she is named Orochi. So yeah, this is volume 1, so I definitely want to continue reading the volumes. I think I gave this 4 stars. Then I reread one of my absolute favorites, Everyone's an Alien When You're an Alien 2 by Jomni Sun. This is my favorite graphic novel of all time, and I've read it 5 times. So my 5th time was this January, and I actually did a buddy read with Kevin because I gifted a copy of this to Kevin and he started to read it and I was like, "No, I'm joining you." So that was really special because obviously buddy reading your favorite books with people you love is just incredible. So I was so happy that I was able to do that with Kevin. And thankfully he loved it. I would have been heartbroken if he didn't love it, but I knew he would love it. So yeah, thankfully he loved it. And every reread of this, I just fall more in love with this story. It's a really simple story about this alien who comes to Earth to study humans. The alien doesn't actually encounter any human. The alien Jomni encounters, trees, animals, nature, and learns about humanity through them and learns about the world and the earth and, what it means to exist and what the meaning of this all is. And I love stories that examine those things. And it also just like grounds me and reminds me of what's important and the beauty of the simpler things in life. And I just adore it. Like, it's so good. It's also just like so cute. Like, the art style is obviously very simple. The language is not, perfect. It doesn't have perfect grammar or spelling. But obviously that adds to the story. And obviously, like, this alien isn't going to know how to speak proper English and everything. So I just love it so much. So I will continue to reread this for the rest of my life. Then I reread Solway by Lupita Nyong'o. So this was another reread for me. I read this a few years ago and loved it. So this is actually a children's picture book. And it's about Solway, who has really dark skin and she doesn't think she's beautiful because of her skin. She's darker than everyone in her family and everyone at school, and she basically learns to love her skin and realize how beautiful she is in this story. And it just makes me cry. It makes me so happy. I love that this exists. It's illustrated by one of my favorite illustrators, Vashti Harrison. So the illustrations are like out of this world incredible. And I actually decided to reread this because Caitlin read it because she was here. So I was like, "You need to read this." She loved it. And I was like, "Yeah, you know what? I need to reread it." And this story also like focuses on, the stars, the moon, the sun. And I love all that. So yeah, just highly recommend it. It obviously takes like 10 minutes to read because it's really short, but it is just absolutely one of my favorites. Of course, that was another 5 out of 5 stars. So another 5-star read, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. This is definitely a contender for my favorite book of the year, but like I said, I have some other options, so I don't know if that's locked in, but this is so good. Also, the cover, every time I see it, especially when like the ring light's reflecting off it, oh, so pretty. So this book, I'm actually so excited because I'm going to be seeing a talk from Gabrielle Zevin soon for Sydney's Writers' Festival, so I'm very excited for that. But anyway, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow is a story about love, but it's not a romance. And it's basically about these 2 characters who meet and connect over games in a hospital gaming room when they're young. They quickly bond over their love for gaming. They have a little bit of a falling out and then they reconnect years later and they decide to develop a game together. So obviously this book heavily focuses on the love for gaming. And obviously I love gaming. I'm a gamer girly. So I really enjoyed, all the technical talk on the process of making a game. If you're not really interested in that, you know, I'm sure you'll be like, oh my God, I don't care. But if you love gaming and games, you will be obsessed with this book. I would love to play the main game that they created. I forgot what it's called. But wow, the descriptions of it, I was like, oh. And this book also has amazing characters, amazing examinations of different relationships. It's not like a straightforward romance, which I really enjoyed. And all the side characters I really loved as well. There's also really amazing representation on chronic illness, race. The main character is biracial, Jewish and Korean. There's talks on grief, mental health, and also really interesting examinations on fame and how fame obviously can change you because their game becomes really successful and how the fame changes the dynamic and stuff. It is just so good. There's so much within this story. Like, it's just one of the best books I've ever read. I loved it. So yeah, highly, 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 highly recommend. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. Okay, the next book I read, Chain of Iron by Cassandra Clare. I read this with Caitlin in New Zealand. I filmed a vlog for it, so if you want to see the process of us reading that, you can watch that vlog. But this was the best reading experience. I will cherish this memory. Like, I just loved it because, well, obviously I loved the story. Like, I loved this book, but also like reading it in real life with Caitlin was just so fun. And we were both just loving it, having the best time ever. We were actually stuck inside because there was a lot of flooding in Auckland at the time. So we had a lot of time to just be at home and read. And we were both like really in the reading mood. We were both really in the fantasy romance mood. So it was just like perfect timing for us. Obviously, like, just adore these characters, James and Cordelia. Love them. This was also a long time coming because I read Chain of Gold years ago and loved it. And I was like, oh my God, how am I going to wait for Chain of Iron? And then I finally read Chain of Iron and it was even better than Chain of Gold. Loved it, loved it, loved it. Like, even the plot was interesting because I mainly love this series for the characters, like the Merry Thieves, James and Cordelia. Yeah. But the plot was also really good, which is a bonus when it comes to fantasy romance. So I was kind of like, oh, what's going on? Like, I was hooked because it's kind of like a mystery going on. And so many beautiful quotes. Like, let me get an example up. Get on top of me. You are my constant star. I obviously won't say the whole quote because spoilers, but wow, this is such a good book. Yeah, wow. My cheeks are starting to hurt just even thinking about it and looking at those quotes. Anyway, so incredible. And actually, maybe I should take this time now to talk about the fact that I also read Chain of Thorns, which is the final book in the series. So the conclusion. Yeah, so obviously this is 5 out of 5 stars, just out of this world, incredible. This was, I think I gave it 2 stars, maybe even 1 star. No, I gave it 2 stars. Yeah, so this was the biggest disappointment. Obviously, I was highly anticipating this book because I loved Chain of Gold and Chain of Iron so much. And then this book, what the hell was that?
What the hell is this?
Once again, I filmed a whole vlog on it, so you can watch that if you want to see me lose my mind. But basically, this just didn't have a lot of the magic that was present in the first 2 books. So the characters were acting different. The characters were pissing me off, honestly. The plot was so boring. I was actually like forcing myself to try and continue reading it, which obviously was not the case for the first 2 books because I was so hooked. So that was really sad. And I was honestly like waiting for it to be over. And actually me and Caitlin were buddy reading this and we were like, we can't do this anymore. So we actually skim read like the last like 300 pages or something. And I'm so happy that we did that because once I finished it, there was the biggest sense of relief that washed over me. Like, I was like, thank God we're done with this because it ended up being a slog. Yeah, and there are a lot of spoilery reasons why I really didn't like this book, which I actually do discuss in that vlog because there are spoilers at the end. So obviously I can't say those spoilery reasons now, but biggest disappointment. So I'm honestly like pretending that this doesn't exist. And I'm just pretending that the series is Chain of Gold, Chain of Iron, and 1 chapter from this that was really incredible. Okay, and then I listened to the audiobook Why Not Me by Minty Kaling. I really love Minty Kaling, it's true. So I found out that she had some books out because I'm kind of like a newer fan of her. Like, I've never watched The Office or anything, but I really love like the Minty Project, Never Have I Ever, The Sex Lives of College Girls. And I just really enjoy her as an actress, as a person, so I decided to read one of her books, Why Not Me? And this is basically just like an autobiography about her rise to fame, things that she's learnt, advice she wants to give to like young women, and it was enjoyable. I don't really remember much from it, to be honest, but I had a good time listening to it, and the audiobook is narrated by her, and obviously she's really funny, so there were some funny moments. But yeah, so I think I gave that 3 stars. Then an absolute 1 star piece of trash. Binding 13. This book is the first book in like a romance contemporary new adult series. And I was really excited to read this. I think I talked about it in a video when I hauled it. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so excited to read the series. Like, I hope I love it. And that book made me so angry. I actually have to edit a vlog that I filmed reading that book. That was a moment. And honestly, I don't want to be pissed off right now, so I'm not going to talk about it. And also, obviously, I'll talk about it way more in that dedicated vlog. But yeah. What the hell? I really do not understand how this series is liked or popular. There's so many gross elements to it. Like, anyway, like I said, I will discuss it more in that vlog. Okay, then I read the love poems of Rumi. I love Rumi poetry, and this is a collection of love poems specifically. And a lot of Rumi poetry, like, really speaks to my soul. And unfortunately, with this collection specifically, there weren't many poems that really stood out to me, so I wasn't really annotating much. I, like, have forgotten a lot of these poems, so I don't know. I mean, I guess, like, I'm not going to love every single poem by Rumi, but I was a bit shocked by that. So I think I gave this 3 stars, which was a bit shocking. Like, obviously, really enjoyed it still, and it's really beautiful, but I was just expecting to be blown away like I have been with most of the Rumi poetry I've read so far. But also maybe it was the time of my life that I read it. Maybe I was just like, I don't care about love right now. You know, romantic love. I don't know. Maybe I was in like a weird headspace, but yeah, I do love Rumi, but this collection specifically was my least favorite. Then I read Writers and Lovers by Lily King. I was so excited for this book, and unfortunately, this was not it. This was so boring. I can't quite remember my specific critiques because it was a few months ago. It was one of my Patreon book club books. So I filmed a whole spoiler-filled vlog if you want to watch that. It's on my Patreon. But yeah, this was just so disappointing. I was really expecting to love it because it sounded amazing, and it's about writing and, you know, being in your 20s/30s, I think. But yeah, it was just really boring. I was just like, okay, when I finished it, I was like, what the hell? And obviously not every book that's like popular is going to work for you. But yeah, I was just really shocked because I really expected to love this book, but it really fell flat for me. So I gave that 2 stars. Oh my goodness. I just realized I skipped this book because I went straight to Chain of Thorns. But another book I read, 7 Days in June. This was another one of my Patreon book club books. This was for February, and this was incredible. This is another contender for favorite book of the year because, wow, this is my new favorite romance book. And if you've been following my channel, The Spanish Love Deception has been my favorite contemporary romance book for a while. But I think this has surpassed The Spanish Love Deception because it is just, it's incredible. So basically, this is a second chance romance, and it's about Shane and Ava, and they have 7 beautiful days in June when they're teenagers, and they don't speak to each other for years. And then they reconnect at a book event because they're both authors, and it's the best thing ever. Like, the premise is so good. Like, both of them being authors is just incredible. Oh my God, it's everything. It's everything. It's truly everything. This book had me screaming. Like, their chemistry is off the charts. I absolutely adore Shane. I adore Ava. Ava's such a girl boss, and Shane is a new dream man for me. Like, he is so hot, and he's tall, and he's obsessed with her. Oh my God. And yeah, it really made me reappreciate how beautiful a second chance romance can be, because obviously, you know, right person, wrong time is a thing. And there are obviously so many other factors that go into the deterioration of a relationship. So I really, really loved this. Like, this is perfect. I loved the writing. I loved Ava's writing journey, her family relationships. Like, this book has a lot. There are also some more heavy discussions on addiction, race. Yeah, there's just a lot to love about this book, and it's perfection in my eyes. So 5 out of 5 stars, of course. Highly recommend you to read this if you love romance and you love amazing books. Then I read Hopeless Romantic by Dolly Alderton. This is a really cute little book, and this is an essay from Dolly Alderton called Hopeless Romantic. And I really love Dolly Alderton. This is basically her talking about how she's always been a hopeless romantic, why she thinks she's a hopeless romantic, and the lessons she's learnt from being a hopeless romantic, and how, you know, sometimes you do need to kind of ground yourself back into reality a bit, but also keep that magic and hope there. So I really related to this and loved it and felt comforted by it and seen. And I also just love this cute little edition. Caitlin gave this to me, and it's so cute. The obsessives, the believers, the fantasists, the letter writers, the kissing and the rainers, the borderline stalkers, know and love them all. Okay, the last book I'm going to talk about, Sirens and Muses by Antonio Angres. This is the most recent book that I read, and wow, it was so good. I've been wanting to read this book for a while now, And I'm so happy that I loved it because obviously the cover is so stunning and I've had it facing outwards on my bookshelf. And obviously, if I read it and hated it, unfortunately, the book would have to come down. So I'm really happy that I loved it because I hoped that I would love it. And basically, it's about these characters at this art school, their relationships, they're in their early 20s, their love for art, them trying to figure out how to produce art under capitalism and the struggles of that. Yeah, the characters are really complex. I really love the relationships as well because they're also complex and, messy. And I just loved it. The writing was beautiful. I was hooked straight away. I obviously love art and appreciate art. So I really loved, the discussions on art and the behind the scenes of the art world because obviously I'm not a part of that, but I find it really fascinating. It's also about these two art girlies who form an intense and sensual, artistic, romantic relationship. Like, there are some really stunning moments. And like I said, the characters are messy, flawed, complex, like most people are, especially in your early 20s. So yeah, I was hooked the entire time. And it was actually during a time where I was really stressed and not really in the reading mood. But obviously, I had to read the book by the end of the month. Thankfully, the book was so amazing that I was like still hooked and able to continue reading because obviously that's not the case for every book if you're in that mood. So yeah, this book was incredible. Gave it 4 stars. Highly recommend it. So those are all the books that I've read so far this year. More jokes, not all of them, but like I said, some are for an upcoming video, which I'm really excited about. But yeah, this was so fun. I feel like it's been so long since I've done like a sit down book video. So hope you enjoyed and thank you so much for your support here. I really appreciate you being here and I really appreciate Book of the Month for sponsoring this video. Once again, you can go to bookofthemonth.com and use the code FLOWERS to get your first book for just $5. If you're looking for more content from me, I have a Patreon always linked below, which is where I upload extra content, like extra vlogs. We have a monthly live show. Obviously, I have my Patreon book club on there. I have all my socials linked below. I hope you're having a good day or night, and I'll see you in my next video.